often our actions are directed by unknown influences and blend with our own conscious will. These influences have various sources, internal and external, and reach different objectives. The first is the will itself, or the way we want, inherent spiritual nature of our unique essence, the fruit of God's creation, and that differs from the conscious will, derived from many factors. The second one comes from the spiritual entities to which we are all subject as participants in the company of spirits, embodied and disembodied. This influence is provided thanks to mediumship, inherent to all human beings. The third influence is the result of automation and conditionings of body physiology and their responses to external stimuli. Finally, we can situate the unconscious influences from human relations of the present life and the various successive lives, which in automatic mechanisms form in our mind structures that continue directing our attitudes without realizing. Are ways of thinking that are installed as psychic drivers of behavioral exteriorizations. Thus when we talk about motivation, desire, and will have to understand that its origins are the domain of the spirit. But when externalize, we included the physiological aggregates, conditioners, and socially. We can say that our future depends on four important factors that act automatically and directly in our lives. The first arises from the union of the influences cited above. The second of our worldview, that is, how we view the circumstances that present themselves to us and how we react to them. It is our perception of the world, as an internal one, but conditioned by the outside world, exercising capital influence in our destiny. The view of the world we have is the background that serves the scenario of our achievements. The lens with which we perceive the world is the same that filters the possibilities of capturing it in its entirety. Even if we are aware that reality exists independently of ourselves, we cannot forget that the vision we have of it is part of our existence, so it constitutes the essential condition to understand it. For this reason we must know and understand the multiplicity of views that make up the mosaic of human nature. The third comes from negative karma, that is, of our obligations to educational processes arising from past attitudes. The negative karma is what is commonly called debt and its rescue. The fourth and last factor comes from God objective/source manifest in His laws. Science has established the interactions between bodies as resulting from four major forces. The weak force, which binds the chemical elements together, form the molecules. The strong force between the components of the atomic nucleus, giving rise to own chemical element. The gravitational force, which causes the bodies to attract each other. And, finally, the electromagnetic force that is responsible for a number of physical phenomena. There is a fifth force in nature, which can be perceived by humans. This fifth force is the psychic and works as a fifth law in parallel to the established laws of science. It enables connections governed by thought, imagination, the fantasy, and is present in common dreams. It is for her that occur attractions between people, becoming a subtle form of energy and at the same time powerful and noticeable in its manifestations beyond the four forces described by science. Disregarding the psychic force, not being aware of the phenomena arising from it, is the same as not conceive of the fourth dimension. The psychic phenomena are sufficiently important that they are anticipating and form the basis of human actions. We can say that nature is seen by the human being from their psychic processes, since it cannot penetrate the essence of things as they are without changing their reality. In that sense, psychology, allied to spiritism, will be at the forefront of studies of this psychic force. Mind that force is the future of the sciences of mind and spirit. Penetrate the complex workings of the human psyche is the great challenge of modern science. Reduce it to an electronic gadgetry industry is squandering human ability to penetrate what is its very essence. Although the scientific productivity of the 20th century has been very large, we cannot forget that the vast majority of its findings is due to studies and ideas arising from the previous century. The human mind seems to follow the path of least resistance. Nothing means suffering that bring pain, that has complex proportions or is unpleasant is desirable to remain long in the field of consciousness. What is not tolerable in consciousness, for various reasons, go to another instance, the unconscious, which is nothing more than what is not and cannot be conscious. I do not want to exclude with this claim the reward ideas and punishment developed by behavioral psychology, but I want to clarify the limits of the latter are restricted to strictly physiological aspects, forgetting the richness and complexity of the motivations and human attitudes when are dedicated to meeting your own creativity. We cannot think of reward, reinforcement, conditioning or punishment when observing the creativity of a genius like Mozart or Bach. There is a natural search, archetypal, the psychic balance. This state of equilibrium is the desire of instinctive happiness in humans. This tendency to equilibrium is the inner divine meaning of the psyche. It is the fifth force in motion. It may be added that the development of the human psyche studies, particularly those carried out by the psychology and parapsychology, with the undeniable contributions of spiritualism, are responsible for the perception of this other force of nature. There is a distinction between this force of nature and the spirit himself as the intelligent universe element. This force is still a form of energy thus derived from matter or ultimately ordering this. You can call it the quintessential matter, forming what is called spiritual body or paraspirit. This force is still in known characteristics, because its nature is extremely plastic and able to contain ideas, emotions and everything that relates to mental processes. Although the spirit, through the paraspirit, is able to store itself all stunted experiences, even though it is the seat of all emotions and intelligence, cannot express it ready this whole range of experiences. Consciousness is a limited field. Although knowledge exists in us, we cannot hold it in consciousness. This constant knowledge of the memory of each of us, except for the formation of the knowledge of God's law, is structured and restrained by this force to which we refer. Given the changes in the structural layers of the paraspirit, when he turns to a new existence, gives the forgetfulness of the past. This fifth force is present in the ratio of the arguments and the intentions of emotions. We dare say that is not the reason you attitudes, but are the emotions that drive life. Reason only becomes socially justifiable. Distinguishing feelings of emotions, which are an acquisition of spirit in social life after the field of perception itself, the discovery of individuality and uniqueness and those resulting from body contact with the outside world. The nature of psychic energy and so it is used by the spirit to shape the subjective experience, it is still in clear land for scientific work. We can only confirm its existence, for now, the external manifestations of feelings and human behavior at levels ever deeper refinement and complexity. Interior lighting. Lighten up is to equip itself with light in order to clear his own life. Illuminate the inner world is the same as adding energy to the inner light, flame divine creator of life, become aware of the potentialities inherent in the spirit. We are more than we think and realize that we are. We have more capabilities than we believe we have. Even people who are still early in their evolutionary walk, have this inner sense of growth, so the potential to accomplish it. This internal lighting is not a simple discovery of something that is hidden, but it gives the meeting with external reality. It is a long process of maturation of spirit that goes in search of himself to light within and not lose its luster. This process takes place in stages which may be summarized for better understanding. Are steps that long, slow walk in necessary. A self-knowledge, or the knowledge of himself. B. Self-discovery or the discovery of potential. C. Self-transformation, or change behavior. And D. Self-enlightenment, or the manifestation of the spirit, personal divine essence. These steps are not closed and isolated. They can occur simultaneously and at any time of life. Usually begin in middle age, when some processes have been experienced. Often they begin after a crisis of values or life crisis. These steps take several lifetimes, until the spirit reach certain achievements in evolution. Once you reach the end of the process, the spirit can choose where, with whom and how they will return to a new life. In the face of crises that lead the change is necessary to silence. Silence to listen to the inner voice that comes from the self, the intimacy of the spirit, Lord of the process of meeting with God/Source. The silence in the life is like a meditation to find peace of mind you want, then start to walk. Listen to the inner voices to ask what to do in a given situation, without rushing the answer. The interior lighting process is the discovery of the inner God, Creator portion generated directly by God in us. There is a God, absolute, Creator and cause of all things. Master Interior. There is an inner God, his image and likeness, first discovered by the manifestations of nature, confirmed by the psychological need for its existence and meaning through the experience of love in fullness. Initiate a process of self-enlightenment is spiritualized own view of the world, putting love in consciousness, flooding the reason the sense of loveliness. Our ideas and reasonings become contaminated by higher feelings coming from the mind, endowed with love and wisdom. At that point, we will achieve prosperity and tranquility in life. Being successful is to be resolved in various dimensions, and this occurs when we act in the world with love and wisdom. When we act in the world, whether capturing reality or wishing to transform it, we do it according to psychic conditions already mentioned before. To these archetypes, using a Jungian psychological language, mate psychic functions that enfixam our way of perceiving and acting, our ways to capture reality, which we use both end up mingling with his own personality. They are used according to characteristic types of individuals. The functions are 1. Thinking, feeling 2, 3 and 4 sense intuition. The thinking function allows us to see the world in a logical and pragmatic way and things according to their utility. The feeling function, unlike the previous one, leads us to see the world from an emotional value system. The feeling function enables us to see the world as it is very realistically, that is, sensory, things are as they appear to us. Intuition function determines us to see the reality completely, projecting it in time and space as a whole. These psychic functions can individualize and separate reality in such a way that we believe that the world is like that we see. In indoor lighting process we must learn to use the 4 functions, as well as others that we found out during the stages. The totality of the human being, that is, the spirit, cannot be restricted to their psychic processes. We understand that the mind or the psychic apparatus is an instrument of the spirit, so only express part of it. The interior lighting will occur through this functional complex, but is not limited to it nor limited to the discovery of intellectual capacities, emotional or psychic. It is light, as a spirit, feel all created by God and live according to his purposes. There is a place, where there is no hatred in which happiness is possible, where there is no crime, or war, where there is no bitterness or sorrow, where people understand the duties are followed, where everyone has equal opportunities, which force the most perfect justice and all rights are respected, where no evil reaches, where there is disease, where there is no poverty or misery, where the strong respect the weak and there is oppressed, there is no minorities or majorities, where people do not come depressed or have fears, where their desires are satisfied and the truths are said lovingly, dominated by the fraternity, there is no envy or greed, where love is the ultimate feeling, where people are at peace and live in the fullness of spirit, where true love is practiced, where there is no moth nor thieves, where virtues are exercised and the good always prevails. There is no time or empty spaces, there are no conditions of suffering, everything is beautiful and harmonious, where nature made his dwelling, where God/source is worshipped in spirit and truth. This place is the consciousness of the spiritual we are, divine essence, simple and ignorant, created for, like an arrow thrown by the archer, to reach the goal of perfection. In us, God/source lives and made his dwelling. We are the monad sky in search of fulfillment. We came deep and hotbed of search in oceans of Mother Earth, lacking the meeting with the surface, on the ground looking to anchor and, from there, go in search of the infinite. Conclusion and blog note. We grew up under the influence of telluric forces of nature that shaped our protective cover of the physical body. Shaping us to the contingencies of nature, we overcome the challenges of matter and energy involved in the material and spiritual improvement process. We are the fruit of our own efforts for winning the encounter with the Creator. Driven by his greatest love, challenging endless obstacles, we learn to distinguish the choices necessary for knowledge of his laws. Submitted to his creative impulse, learn to live on various plant and animal species in the various kingdoms of nature, forming the capacity to feel, think and love, to finally reach the condition of enlightened beings.